Welcome to Fun is Fundamental. Fun is Fundamental is a podcast for those who realize that the enjoyment of life is about having something deep in our souls which lights our fire. It's for those who maybe have lost that fire and feel like they are missing out on the pleasures of life. In each episode, I will share recent fun activities and focus on why having fun is essential for good health. I'm your host, Alenia, and I invite you to take this journey with me and join the pleasure-seeking movement. Hi, welcome to Fun is Fundamental, and today I'm talking a little bit about something we did last weekend. We had a conversation night last weekend, and this was something that my husband had set up, and we've had ones before. This was our second one. And during it, we pick a topic that, we focus on the most of the evening and eat food and, laugh and have fun, right? But, we're talking about deep things that are affecting our worlds and stuff like that. We try to go into depth on it. Last weekend, it was about artificial intelligence potentially killing all of mankind. And, I don't really know a lot about it, but, it's, I am an existential dread kind of person. And so it was definitely challenging me a little bit to listen to this and not just be like, we're all gonna die. Very cheery. Yeah. So mostly I took a back seat and I listened to other people talk about, podcasts that they've listened to, theories and articles and stuff like that, because they were a lot more knowledgeable and interested in learning about the topic before we even had the topic in the first place. For example, one of the things I learned about was the paperclip maximizer theory. Obviously, if you already have a fear of robots, you should not look into the inevitability that we are doomed, already doomed, basically, because we've already started AI work. So, cheery. And, if you're anything like me and get existential dread sometimes, maybe don't pursue any of the topics, basically, that we tend to end up talking about at our conversation nights. There's a lot of end of the world kind of topics, because we're screwed, right? I'm very much of an existential dread person. It's a problem. It is a problem. But, our own conversation nights has led me to want to find out what some of the benefits of deep, meaningful conversations are and why we crave them, why we need more, and potentially why we often avoid them. I mean, how many people talk about how much they don't like small talk, but small talk is still such a big thing that we talk about. We love to talk about the entertainment that we like, and just what you did recently, I did this week, and we like to talk about, we talk about the weather with strangers. It's that's not that interesting, but we do it all the time. I do it all the time with the old people at the facility. I'm constantly being oh, I hate this weather. I'm guilty of it. But I guess the first thing I want to say is that I know that there has to be people that are craving deep conversations, meaningful conversations, because there's this abundance of conversation cards, which I don't know if it's just like, do we have a hard time keeping a conversation going that we need conversation cards? I say, as a person that has conversation cards, I'm looking at the Hygge game right now. As I say it, I am guilty of this. But there's a ton of them that have gone on sale in recent years, you know. Because we just need like a little more help along or something. Because we have a hard time communicating with each other. And a lot of us are lonely and don't know how to connect. There's a lot of research about loneliness and how it is a big problem right now. I also know that people are craving it based on the fact that there's like a company, at least one company, Good People Dinners, that was founded in San Francisco about 10 years ago, you know. Obviously, there's people who are like, yes, I want to have these deep conversations. You know, we were taught, you know, that there's certain topics that are taboo at the dinner table. That you get together for the holidays and you do not talk about these things with your family. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about religion, money, sex. I mean, not that you want to talk deeply about sex with your family, of course. That would be weird and creepy. But like, you know, like any conversation about sex with, like, even like friends, people just don't, like, how many people just don't talk about sex, even though there's like a show called like Sex in the City about friends that talk about sex all the time. How many people actually have that relationship with their friends that they actually do talk about sex? You know, it's like we're still so closed off to like things that we can talk about. And how many people have actually like have conversations with other people about money, you know? Like in my family, I had no money education. And I was screwed because of it, you know, like I am now have like no retirement and I'm trying to like get myself in a functioning relationship with money, you know? So yeah, I think that these kind of conversations start in the home. Like maybe we wouldn't have such a problem with tribalism and this great divide between the different sides if we were okay with talking about politics with the people that we love and care about, you know, our close friends and our family. It's just this like puritanical like idea of like what is polite and what's not polite. We're human. Like if this is part of who we are, and we've gotten into like this idea of authenticity and vulnerability, but if we can't be authentic and vulnerable with the people that we're closest to, of course it's going to be hard for us to like be able to do that, you know, with others as well. You know, like how many people are just kind of not even being honest with themselves about who they are because we're so programmed to not be honest with the people that we're closest to in a way, you know, like, oh no, we can't talk about that because, oh, you know, yeah. And like, how often do you like look at someone else and they're like, oh man, I just appreciate how they're so unapologetically themselves. They're so honest. They're so, I don't want to use the word authentic again, but there we go, because I can't think of another word right this minute. But yeah, and we're just like, oh, they're like my hero because they're just so them. They're just so themselves, right? You know, maybe this wouldn't be such a big problem if we could have honest conversations with the people that are closest to us. if we didn't have to hide things from our parents, about who we are, who we really are. Yeah. I guess I'm just saying, like, let's have more conversations, Let's have let's not be afraid to talk about what really matters to us, what really shapes us into the people that we are, It's just to be your true self. And partly, is being able to be able to say it out loud. Like, what do you believe? What are you passionate about? What is affecting you in your day-to-day life? We shouldn't have to hide those things from each other. We should be able to talk about those things. We should be able to talk about religion. We should be able to talk about politics and money and, everything else. Like, it shouldn't have to be like only these topics are acceptable to talk about. So I'm definitely saying, like, let's do away with taboo topics. I guess more about the benefits of human connection, deep human connection between each other, which happens through conversation, intimacy through conversation, and how those things benefit us. Obviously, you'll be happier. And, having debate helps you work on your critical thinking. It, will make you, be able to change your mind. Like, that's the thing. Like, sometimes, like, I need to say things out loud to be able to, like, actually think about it and reflect on it and be like, oh, actually, I don't know if I actually believe that. I just said it, but let me rephrase that, like that kind of thing. To be able to articulate. And for me, I've talked about on previous episodes that I know I'm not the best speaker, despite the fact that I have a podcast. But by doing this, I am building my speaking skills. I am becoming more articulate. I'm able to put my feelings out, my thoughts out in a more cohesive and interesting way by just doing it, And, I definitely grew up, not sharing my thoughts and opinions with other people because I was afraid of what they might think. And so, being able to do that now is, I'm just putting it out there, and I'm just like, I'm fine with it right now. Guess some other things that make, is good for debate. It makes you be more of a quick thinker, to be okay with having conflict between two people. Like, heaven forbid you don't agree, but to have it not be something personal, that's a very important skill that seems to be missing in our dialogue that we're having as a society. Like, you say something and then, oh my God, like, I remember, like, having, an online conversation with someone I did not know. And he's like, well, you have bad teeth. And I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with what I'm talking about? Like, that's your comeback? You can't just hear what I'm saying and then come back with something that actually is relevant to what we're talking about. And that happens all the time. These personal attacks on people simply because they don't agree with you, but you can't come up with your own your thought about the same subject, and so you just attack someone personally. It's just sad, how this is where debate has devolved, because we aren't willing and able to do it in just our daily lives. Why don't we have a safe place to be able to do it? Like the good people dinners. That's great. Like, people are able to not agree. That's one of their prime, like, philosophies. It's like, we're not all going to agree. That's good. It means we can talk civilly about it, you know? And yeah, and to not, like I said before, not have these things be taboo with your family, with your close friends, the people that you're supposed to be closest to. Yeah, sure. If this is a work dinner, yeah, don't talk about politics. Amen. But we're never going to be able to work through this tribalism that has become like this big problem, this big divide, until we can have civil discourse with the people in our personal lives and not have personal attacks about it. Like, it's okay, what? You know, I just like walk away when like someone is like that. It's just like not the point. My teeth have nothing to do with what I just said. Yeah. You know, other things that we get from deep conversation and debate, empathy. We learn how to control our emotions. Like, not everything has to be emotional. Obviously, there are things that we're very passionate about that affect us deeply. And, you know, obviously there's no problem with you, like, if something is hurting, to be able to cry about it, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with that. People are identifying with their beliefs so much that it's like any attack on someone's belief is attack on them as a person. You know, also, like, getting out of this black and white thinking and black and white, right or wrong. Most things in life are gray. Like, obviously there's some things that it's like, oh, you killed a child. Yeah, that's terrible. You should let's put them in prison for the rest of your life. That's black and white. There's not gray there. But most things are shades of gray. And, you know, quite frankly, that's what makes life interesting and beautiful. Things are not simple, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, other things that we get out of communicating with each other is a worldview outside of what you see outside your door every day. You know, everyone has different life experiences. They bring different things to the conversation, to the world, you know. I love like traveling and, you know, finding out how people in other places live. And if I was so closed off and closed-minded to understanding where other people are coming from, like, you know, would I be able to go to a country that's so different from my own and just learn from other people? So, yeah, that's some. Let's see. Also, like the American Psychological Association, they published a study, had 12 experiments with 1,800 participants, and this was the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. That was published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And basically, the experiments were they would give them questions that were like small talk and deep questions. The idea was like, how awkward is it to have conversations? So they would have people have shallow conversations and deep conversations. And first they would predict how awkward they thought it would be. And then afterward, they would rate how awkward the conversations actually were and how connected they felt. and how much they enjoyed the conversation. And basically, people often think that like deep conversations are going to be more awkward than they are. And then they had them and they were like, oh, I very much overestimated how awkward this conversation would be. And so basically, it was just basically an experiment of being like, we don't need to be afraid to have deep conversations, even with strangers. And obviously, you might not want to go to a stranger and just be like, start telling them about your like biggest fears or something like that. But, you know, it doesn't mean that you can't have actual meaningful conversations with people that you don't actually know. Does that mean you should just go start talking about politics with someone you don't know? Probably not. But talking about like what you value, what matters to you, is something that can really connect everyone. Like, who doesn't have people that they love and have feelings, have emotions, and have things that are important to them, you know? You know, we have this idea, is also something from the article. We have this idea that others don't care about us, that no one wants to hear about our stories, no one cares about who we are, where we come from. But, you know, in some of the experiments, the researchers asked participants to predict how interested their conversation partner would be in the discussion, and then afterward to indicate how interested their partner actually was in the discussion. And generally, they would underestimated how interested their partners would be. Yeah, so research also talks about how intimate conversations strengthen bonds between people. And so I guess my question is, if we would be happier and have better bonds and get all this other stuff from being able to have more intellectual conversations about topics that we're not supposed to talk about, why don't we do it? What's standing in our way? And a lot of it is just this feeling that like no one cares what I have to say, which is often not true. Podcasts have become very popular. So clearly people want to hear what other people have to say. Otherwise, why would they be listening to podcasts? YouTube channels. I mean, so many of these things are just like average folks just making something, and we're still watching. You know, more than ever, you know, with social media, I feel like we've seen the examples of how much we want to connect to each other, how much we're willing to go out, you know, go and like seek out what other people are saying about things, how other people are living, what are their lives like, what are their pain points, how are they feeling about this and that. You know, we very much want to know what other people are thinking, but yet we put this on ourselves to think that no one wants to hear what we're thinking. But that's really often not the case. And so if you just have the confidence to just go and start a conversation with someone that isn't about the weather, that is, once again, maybe don't talk politics with someone you don't know right away. Save that for a little bit later when you know that they're not going to harm you in some way because you don't think the same as them, right? But like to talk about like something, a story about yourself, an experience that you had, how it made you feel. People love those kind of things. You know, have you ever like been, you know, I used to take a lot of Ubers and Lyfts and stuff because I didn't have a car for a while. And, you know, I loved when I would get in there and we would just start having a chat about like something real, you know, and we would laugh. You know, this is a stranger that I'm literally going to talk to for like 10 minutes. And we'd have like this great conversation in that short amount of time. And then you walk away feeling so good with that interaction. And it sets you up for the rest of your day, Like, how great does that feel? You start chatting to someone on the bus. I remember making friend on the bus, kind of thing. Or in line, you just start chatting with someone. Instead of us always looking at our phones. Always have to be like, have your walls up and no one talk to you, and like no one even look at each other, like we're afraid to even look at each other so often. And then, obviously there's sometimes people that you're just like, oh, I get a bad feeling from you. I've definitely had that on the bus for sure. Or in Seattle. Some people you don't want to engage with. But there's plenty of totally normal people that you could have a conversation with. Instead of us constantly avoiding it and always feeling like, we don't want to be the ones like, what will they think of it if I just talk to them? They're going to be like, oh, you weirdo, why are you talking to me? We just kind of need to get over ourselves. I think it shouldn't be this scary to talk to each other. And obviously, when you really know someone, I do think we need to be having those difficult conversations, the taboo conversations, because, we're just, me with my existentialness, I feel like we're so screwed because we have so many problems that we need to work through, but we need to be able to do it together. One person isn't going to come and save us all. And ultimately, we're going to need to work together if we're going to defeat the evil robots. So get over yourself and go talk to people. You'll feel a lot better. And maybe people will stop feeling so lonely and hurting so much if they had meaningful conversations with a stranger because they don't have any friends. But I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if I really said everything that I wanted to say, but I kind of rambled and I feel like I probably said enough. So I'm going to end it here so that it's not like crazy long. I think I said enough. I love you. Have some fun this week. Talk to someone. A real conversation. All right. Bye.